Welcome, everyone. My name is Vienna Blum. I'll be your host today for this fantastic masterclass presented by Accenture on the topic of accelerating the decarbonization of mobility with electric vehicles. The purpose of this session is to discuss how the adoption of e-vehicles isn't just about new powertrains. It's about citizens, cities, and automotive and mobility companies coming together in new ways. So we hope you leave here today thinking about the EV user experience, how we must accelerate adoption, and how the ecosystem must join together to tackle the obstacles. I'm joined here today by Jürgen Reers, a managing director at Accenture. And we're also delighted to be joined by Cécile Prévieux, executive vice president at Energy Solutions at Engie, as well as Alain Balu, vice president of Energy Services at Mobilize. So, hi, Jürgen, Cécile, Alain. Hello.
Hi. Hi. Hello. Hi, everyone.
Welcome. So this is going to be an interactive experience. We will begin with a presentation by our experts, and afterwards we will move into a more interactive part with all of you at home who are logging in. So we do have a chat function, and we even have a poll option. So in order to just warm up and get used to this kind of interactivity with this masterclass, I'd like to begin with a short poll. And you'll see it pop up in the chat function in a moment. And the poll is, what percentage of cars on the road globally do you expect to be electrified by 2030? So this is a question for all of you at home to make a guess. Do you think the number of cars that are going to be electrified globally by 2030 is going to be 0 to 25%, 25 to 50%, 50 to 75%, or 75 to 100%. And we're going to wait for the responses to come in. We're going to wait a little bit longer. Yeah, number one, is that what we have? Okay, so the audience believes that it's number one. So the audience believes that somewhere between 0 and 25% of cars on the road are going to be electrified by 2030. So we're going to find out if your predictions are correct as we bring our attention to Jürgen, Cécile, and Alain, who will be presenting this masterclass. And then we'll connect back following the presentation for a Q&A and to hear some reactions from all of you in the audience. So I'm going to invite Hans to share the PowerPoint. Oh, there you go. We've got the PowerPoint presentation up. And Jürgen, I pass the mic to you.
Thanks, Vienna. Thank you very much. And your first question was spot on, because I think that's a key question. I mean, we have seen a very strong uptick in growth of the sale of electric vehicles, but is the growth fast enough to really have a strong contribution to decarbonization? And if we take a closer look, over the last 5 years on average, we have seen more than 40% sales and sales growth. So this is quite a good number. Mainly driven by markets like China and Europe, with Europe for the first time outpacing China in the growth. But looking forward until 2030, we would need to have a continued growth rate of 45% per year to reach only 30% of e-vehicles in the car park. And with a growth rate of 30% on an annual basis, which we took here, it would just 15% of the global car park by 2030. So, so right in the middle of the range that also, our audience feel is a reasonable number. And so a key question is for us and for our panel this afternoon, what can we do to further accelerate the growth and the adoption in e-vehicles to have a more significant impact on decarbonization. And with that, let's move to the next slide. So as a matter of fact, we see from our research and from our work with clients, 3 major challenges. And the first one is, of course, the environmental sustainability of e-vehicles. And we have made progress here as it relates to the energy mix, as e-vehicles only have a significant contribution if the energy mix is coming from renewable sources. One thing I think we need to take a closer look is also the carbon footprint of the entire value chain and also over the entire vehicle life cycle. And only if those two drivers, so going to a more carbon-free energy mix and also taking a holistic view over the value chain and also over the entire vehicle life cycle, we call it a circular view. So starting from the manufacturing process over the user life cycle up to second life of the battery, for instance, we can increase the contribution of e-vehicles to decarbonization. The second driver in adoption and growth is, of course, vehicle cost and profitability. There we have made already quite significant progress, and the cost degression going forward is actually quite impressive that we see. So cost per battery per kilowatt hour going down to $100 or even lower by 2030. Also a significant cost degression of other factors could bring e-vehicles to cost parity already over the next 2 to 3, maybe 4 years. It depends a little bit on the vehicle size and on the vehicle model that we are looking at. But ultimately, cost of ownership is a combination of vehicle purchase price and the energy cost. And many consumers, of course, to look at the vehicle purchase price. So I think it's thinking about new business models, thinking about new ways of communication to make sure that total cost of ownership is understood and valued by the end user. Third, and most importantly, where I think we still are facing the biggest challenges is usability and customer experience. So we still have a limited option of charging stations, even though 70% of e-vehicles are charged at home. The 30% are actually quite critical, especially if users look at e-vehicles as their first vehicle. In this way, we need to create a better user experience so that you have basically the same degree of freedom to move around with your e-vehicle. The other factors are really the interconnectivity of the vehicle to its infrastructure, so to also make smart charging services and integrating charging services with other types of services like parking services in a much better way. So this is all talking about the integration of vehicle and the infrastructure, building up an ecosystem, driving the convergence of industries, and also looking at entirely new business models. With that, let's move to the next. So if we really want to go to even higher growth rates, an e-revolution really requires to bring it all together. So we need a new infrastructure and platforms. Only the buildup of the charging infrastructure in Europe is expected to require up to 100 billion euros over the next 10 years. There's a huge need to also upgrade the grid systems. And we need a new ecosystem and value chain because there's insights that if vehicles can be steered in a smart way by the grid, you can basically cut the investments that are needed into the grid almost to a half over the next 10 years. And of course, new business models, as mentioned earlier, bringing together the e-vehicle users' experience with the infrastructure, integrating parking and charging services, for instance, that you can book, prepay a parking space where you also can charge your vehicle at the end of the day, which of course require a lot of integration of technology into the system, full connectivity of the vehicles, and therefore partnerships of a number of players, especially from the automotive sector, from the energy sector and also with tech companies. So it's a true industry convergence play that we are looking at, and ultimately, all of these challenges, all of these technical challenges, from my point of view, can be tackled. It's at the end of the day, the creating or reinventing, as we say, the user experience, which will make all the difference in terms of accelerating the sale and therefore also the share of e-vehicles in the car park to have a more meaningful impact on decarbonization of our vehicles. With that, back to you, Vienna.
Thank you. Just want to make sure that the slide is no longer being shared so we can have a full view. Perfect. Okay, we're back on. Excellent. So thank you so much for that, Jürgen. The actual chat was pretty busy. People had lots of comments talking about coal and battery swaps and Tesla. But before I have a look at some of the questions, I'd love to ask a few questions to our audience after watching the masterclass and hearing Jürgen share. As a consumer at home, how do you believe the EV manufacturers can improve the user experience to get more people to switch to EV? Like, what would it take for you to switch to electric vehicles? So I'd love to hear people join in the chat. But in the meantime, I'll actually ask you, Jürgen, what is the major thing that allows people to switch over from a consumer behavior?
I think it's really in the holistic user experience of having the same freedom that you have with the conventional car, and understanding really the benefits of an e-vehicle also in the way that it actually drives. So I think there are still consumers out there who make a connection between an e-vehicle to a car which is kind of less sporty or so, and what we see is if a customer has the experience with an e-vehicle, the loyalty and the repurchase rate is actually very high. So I think it's really creating or improving the current user experience and making sure it's understood. Mm-hmm. I think are the two most important drivers of further growth.
Absolutely. And let's see what people are saying. Most people already did. People are talking about battery swap. To switch to EV, it's about the price. So some people are talking about pricing, making it more accessible, having more charging areas, and quicker charging. I mean, I can just speak from my experience being in Canada versus the US. I find that there's quicker charging service locations in Canada, but when I move into the US, it takes a lot longer. Is that something that you see across Europe as well? Like in terms of quicker charging areas? Is that make it more accessible for people?
Yeah, quicker charging, I mean, is a function of the vehicle, which needs to be enabled to do so, and of course the charging infrastructure. And this is what I meant earlier. So it's a huge investment that is needed, and it's a little bit of a chicken and egg problem, right? If the vehicles are not there, there used to be too little of a drive to invest in the infrastructure and vice versa. And I think we have to correct this by really going into a more aggressive view of investing into the infrastructure and making sure that there are charging spots, and then also connecting the vehicles to an infrastructure that you can more easily identify also where to find a charging spot, and also how to book it and how to reserve it. So you can make sure if you get there that you also find a spot which is actually free that you can use.
Yeah, having it fully integrated into people's lifestyles. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, through apps and whatever, especially in travel. Like for me, I think that what often comes up is the long distance traveling within an e-vehicle is just seems daunting. So if it's fully integrated, then I can kind of rely on that experience as I travel. Somebody here, Michael, is really saying that he would need a turnkey package to have the charging station installed at home. So do you see that being able to do the charging stations at home makes a big difference of people wanting to switch over?
I don't think that this is a key challenge going forward, because I think there is already a pretty good infrastructure out there. I think it can be also done in a more easy way in terms of integrating this with your energy package, and also integrating the vehicle actually into the smart home, where I think we have a huge opportunity when bidirectional charging is actually going to become more widespread, right? So to really integrate the vehicle into the smart home, I think can be one of the game changers for the e-vehicle sales.
So tell me more about the bidirectional.
It's basically using the vehicle also as a storage unit for energy, so that you can rebuffer energy into your home as a backup power. And think of countries like the US, where you have frequent power outages. This can be a huge benefit, and some vehicle manufacturers are also using this quite actively in their communication, that you can basically use your car as basically backup power. And you can also, store energy if you use solar power, for instance, on your roof. So you can use your vehicle to actually store this excess power that you have. And this, of course, also works with a grid, right? What I mentioned earlier is if you have bidirectional charging, then you can also offer more vehicle-to-grid services, that you can also use the e-vehicles as basically many mobile storage units for energy that you can rebuffer into the grid. When you have a high share of renewable energy, for instance, and you have to basically cover peaks where you can actually use this excess energy.
Amazing. That's very exciting. It's almost your car becomes a generator.
It is.
Yeah, for your house. That's incredible. I mean, I live in Canada, and we have good electricity, but we lose power fairly often. I have someone from the US who's saying that as soon as EV trucks are available, the US will move quickly. And is that true, that now electric trucks are less accessible? And what's happening on that front?
So in trucks, we see also e-vehicles, but we will also see higher share of hydrogen, especially for heavy-duty trucks traveling long distances. But e-vehicles or e-vehicle technology will also be used for light and medium-duty trucks, especially when they travel short distances.
Okay. Yeah, because when we're talking about trucks, we can be talking about kind of, smaller trucks that we use at home versus like the larger heavy mobility that are going across the country.
Exactly.
And in that case, you would say hydrogen is something that is key. So also, just to bring in Alain and Cécile into the conversation, let's see a few questions for them. I'm curious if, besides the bidirectional charging between car and home, are there any other current plans for improving the user experience that maybe people haven't heard of yet? And anyone could weigh in here. I don't know if Cécile or Alain might have something to say about that as well.
Yeah, well, I think there is one other thing I'm cutting a little bit on my presentation that is going to follow, but the plug and charge as well. I know we have a solution that now are just like totally capable to secure a automated recognition of the vehicle, so that the whole payment is automated. So you make your experience of charging much easier. So that's as well some kind of improvement of the experience, and again of the lifestyle that you can have with electric vehicle versus ICE vehicle. I think that's great. But
yes, so thank you, with pleasure, for the change in infrastructures for us. So you can see on the slide that the need of EV charging infrastructure will dramatically grow in the next few years, especially in home, of course, at home and at work, but also in public and commercial areas like highways or supermarkets. So we will step from about 1 million charging points to 6 million by 2030. This is a rising market that needs to be industrialized to reach the growth needs. So concerning ENGIE, we support green mobility, of course, with the development and deployment of infrastructures for low carbon fuels, NGV, H2, and of course EV. So we build, operate, and maintain EV charging points, and we are also committed to decarbonize the energy mix to supply green electricity for a more sustainable mobility. So we develop from 3 gigawatt per year to 6 gigawatt per year of renewable energy sources capacity installed over the year, on a worldwide basis. And we are also a player on distributed solar, number 2 player worldwide, with 4 gigawatt already installed in 2021. So we mobilize all these renewable energy sources to supply the customer. So as an energy company, we can play a major role in the industrialization process to meet the need and of course deliver a really reliable energy to the customer, because as we discussed, the customer experience is really key. So we have to engage on also operation and maintenance to be sure that when the customer arrives at the charging point, it will be okay to fuel the vehicle at a good speed. So I can now pass the word to Alain for the changes in automotive industry, and after, if we have questions.
Well, thank you very much, Cécile. Just like a quick statement first, I'm very thrilled to have this presentation, and thanks to Movin'On. Last year, I was on the other side of the Atlantic to follow this very special event. So I'll just say, pass on a bonjour, hello to my Canadian friends on the other side of the sea. Yeah, just let us set the scene for a little bit of what Renault Group is doing to move the things in terms of EV position. We set up since our age in this challenge. So you see here the distribution of the 3 business units that we have that are the car maker side. So we have Dacia for an access type of value proposal, Renault for a more modern type of mainstream offer, and the early adopters on the Alpine side. But you have a circle around, and I think that's what I would like to introduce is not everything is about the conversion and the EV transition, but it's about using better all the possibilities offered by this new way of servicing mobility. And at Renault, we have this strong ambition, of course, to introduce more and more options for EV adopters. In our range and our lineup will be 100% with 100% of electrified version by 2025. So 2025, any kind of buyers can just pick a version with electrified option. But we have this new way of engaging into this decarbonation challenge, creating a new brand, Mobilize. Mobilize objective is to really stretch beyond the automotive, a new extended playground as a mobility provider. And the mobility provider, we believe, will just help to demultiply the EV capacity to decarbonize the environment. So basically, we have 3 pain points that we'd like to tackle and ammunition to engage in this fight. The first one is that we look at for the customer, it's just and clients, they are just saying that most of the time I'm not using my car. And yes, that's right. You can say 90% of the time, and I'm paying 100% of it. So we want to use our solution of car sharing and smart fleet management in order to increase this ratio of usage by 20%. And we already have in Europe leadership in car sharing fleet with 10,000 EV through our partners or direct operation. We have a franchise, ZT, which is already with 380, almost 400,000 users. There is a second pain point that we need to as well tackle. The assets value decrease. And yes, EV adoption requires to have a special attention to how we can deliver this value of having a stretched life cycle using the renovation, recycling, but as well the specific qualities of the battery. And for this, we set up a new way with a big refactory manufacturer, the biggest in Europe, that will have the capacity to refit 120,000 cars per year. That will help certainly the EV to turn to a more affordable solution. The last and the big concern of everyone is the environmental concern, of course. And this, for us, will be the challenge to move people from ownership to usership and to make sure that the EV is at its best usage through the new services, the cooperation with partners to build a solution for not only for a single usage of cars, but moving people when they need to come from one place to another one, using our partnership to deliver this value. And as well, of course, we will leverage on the smart energy service that will be developed, and Jürgen has opened already most of the great value that we see in the EV to support renewable energy efforts. So to just quickly look into what is so special about EV to deliver this decarbonation future, I'd like to just walk you through two views on what I call the superpower of the battery being one of the magic assets of this EV that we are using for this transformation of mobility. So the first, and sorry, Hans, if you can move to the next slide. Oh yeah, thank you. So starting from this first life of the battery and the EV being used as a mobile power storage. So Jürgen has opened the floor already of all the quality of this battery. And I'm going to say again, all the benefits that we can use as an experience, plug and charge. You can automatically be recognized. You just have your vehicle to be plugged on the charging station, and then automatically the payment process is secured and processed seamlessly. The second, I'll say, almost game changer is the smart charging that we can develop in terms of connected services. The EV charging station can be piloted, can be managed in order to make sure that you don't charge during the peak hours, and you just use the energy when it's available at full, supporting that way a better sustainable energy on the grid. That is certainly something that will help to have EV adoption in the future. And just looking at recent study, we have seen that over 60% of the customer and EV driver will be interested to delegate this charging planning in order to first, of course, have those kind of peak shaving and providing flexibility to the grid. And that's the last point. The game changer will be the vehicle to grid. So the bidirectional capacity of the battery and the charger that Jürgen has mentioned will provide not only capacity to be more supportive to the grid and renewable energy, but as well for our customer to enjoy services of being rewarded and having revenues from this battery that can be absorbing energy, but as well releasing energy when needed on certain usage. So you can see that the battery can be used as mobile power generator, but not only. And that's where I think I need to stand on our fight, which is zero emission, but as well trying to move to a zero waste. And this is great value. And my conclusion will be to look at this future that we are building right now. Second life of the battery will help EV adoption, because one of the people just reported that what about the cost? And the cost of the battery is standing for 30% of the EV today. And the best way to improve this value proposal for our customers and reduce the cost is to find second life for our batteries. And we have already lots of options and options that are sustainable options to support the green energy and sustainable energy by having stationary storage solution. So you can see illustration of many options that we have already experienced and proven as reliable. A big container of batteries, second life, and as well you can find other usage for mobile small generators of energy, as well as maritime usage of electrification. From many aspects, this is just creating great value on the life cycle of the battery, and that way creating as well a better value proposal for our customers. So my conclusion will be that electromobility transition is really the only way to support the decarbonization challenge that we are facing. And to me, this is something that will happen by delivering to our customer solution to, I'd say, build a cocoon of responses to their anxiety. What is this electric vehicle experience to me? How am I going to charge home or on the go? And this is our big challenge, is to deliver those solutions to our customers using this electric vehicle for this transformation. And giving back the floor to you, Zaina.
Thank you, Alain. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's so important to be talking about the second life or the zero waste and really looking forward. So thank you so much for touching upon that. We did have an interesting question about developing countries, and there's always so much focus on cars in kind of the rich countries. Joshua brought it to our attention. What about the emerging economies, and how long is it going to take for things to change in those areas of the world?
Well, that's already starting. We have labs experience because, of course, the ecosystem is totally different. So we need to bring adapted solutions. So I can name an experience that we are preparing now to use second life batteries for stationary storage in order to support a fisherman village in Africa that is as well being used for an adapted purpose design vehicle with a electric as well, of course, vehicle that will transport people. So we are building those, I'd say, labs in order to make sure that we can scale this. But this is, to me, a response to the difficulty of having energy when we bundle this with a photovoltaic solution. So electric mobility is certainly something that will help countries that need to develop mobility with a jump in time and moving directly to a decarbonated mobility, shared mobility, and as well, I'd say, insisting on this one, a sustainable solution that will control end-to-end all the value that we have a responsibility in the battery, in the vehicle, throughout the lifetime of those assets.
Thank you very much, Alain. Just to bring our attention to Cécile, I'd like to hear a little bit more from you, particularly around how we can orchestrate the ecosystem around the big systemic challenges that we face in increasing adoption, because now there's so many fragmented solutions. Is there a way that we can really orchestrate the ecosystem? I know it's a big question, but I don't know if Cécile can shed some light on that so we can hear a little bit more from you.
Yes, so in terms of fragmented system, it's sure that the user experience is key to foster broad adoption of EV, and all the participants have underlined this. What we see through our partnership with automotive industry, we observe that we need to trust each other to walk down the EV road. One partner for advising on the EV, but one other to advising on the EV charger, its installation, and the supply of green energy. That's why, for example, two examples for individuals. For example, in France, we offer to residential customers the first one in the first offer in the market to make it easy to own an EV charger and get green electricity through it. For example, we have a one-stop shop for receiving an EV charger and have it installed. This is the first offer. And the second offer for residential is to have a green electricity supply contract tailored to the needs, depending on when they supply the vehicle. So clearly, it's fully integrated offers, and we try to to simplify, in fact, the journey of the customer with these offers. Another example is for professional fleets. For example, in Belgium, we partner with a leasing company called Arval to provide a one-stop shop for an EV and its EV charger at office and leasing solutions. So we provide a 100% worry-free solution to test and adopt EV in fleets of corporate companies. And this is also a way to help adoption and to help customer to have a full integrated offers. So this is just some two examples to try to integrate the whole value chain.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that. Alain, I have one last question before we move to sort of our conclusions and takeaways, but there was a question that came up for you specifically about, for you, Alain, about dealership models. So how do dealership models change with EVs for Renault, considering there is no service revenue?
Well, I would not agree with the second statement. I think this is how we need to work together with dealers, and we are starting now the journey. We have this first magic point and golden moment where we have the chance to convince the customer that the best option is the EV, and we need to make it very easy, and we need to have a full, as a solution to respond to this anxiety of, for example, how am I going to charge? So this is very important that together with our dealer store and dealership, we have the responses that will again deliver to our customers all those services. Those services are raising value and delivering value, and of course we have a great asset through the network of dealers. There are the access to the customers, and we have, of course, our solution are built to share value that will be created through the installation value chain of the charging solution that we provide to our customers, as well as all the packages of services that will be sold to our customers. So this is part of the new EV business that we are building together with our dealers.
Great. Thank you. I hope, Divik, that helps answer your question. Thank you for all the participation from all of you at home. I'd actually like to invite everyone logging in, the participants, to share after this masterclass, what are your takeaways or any new insights that occurred for you following this presentation? Is there anything new that came up for you that you hadn't thought of before? And if you do, please share your insights and your takeaways in the chat function, and I'll be sharing some of those aloud. It's always interesting to hear the feedback during the session. And while we're waiting for those responses to come in, I'm actually going to go ahead and ask Jürgen, what are your takeaways from this session? What is your kind of final words on the topic?
I mean, my takeaway is that, first of all, we have to put the user into the center of everything that we do. We have to think about the vehicle more as a smart device that is basically, in an IoT setup, integrated into a network. And Cécile and Alain have, I think, made great cases of what it takes to work together across industry boundaries in a true industry convergence style to really bring together capabilities and experiences and competencies from various industries to really create these new user services that really can make the difference and can act like game changers. Think about using a vehicle not only as a device to move people and goods from A to B, but being fully integrated into a user journey and also being integrated into the infrastructure and into a grid, offering completely new business models like vehicle to home, vehicle to grid, vehicle to anything, which I think can create game changers both for the user experience, for the user value, and can also make the e-vehicle from a cost point of view much more viable for the end user. And by optimizing the charging infrastructure, you can also take away what was also mentioned, the anxiety of users that with an EV you don't have the same degree of freedom than with a conventional vehicle. So these are my takeaways from the session, and I think was a great case of how industries can work together, need to work together. And I think Movin'On is also a great platform. This is not just a conference, but really a platform that enables this dialogue and this cooperation.
Absolutely. It's a community that lives on past this week, and it's a community that can continue sharing and learning from each other. So how about you, Cecilia? Is there anything that you want to leave our participants with before we close our session? We have about a minute from you and maybe another minute for Alain.
Yes, of course, and I fully agree. We need an ecosystem approach, and Movin'On is exactly what we need to call for action. Of course, we have to be together to deploy and to deploy EV around the world. So no major change will be possible if we don't have a strong commitment to act together. And we need trustful partnership also. The trust is clearly needed because we have the manufacturer. We have to provide, of course, the EV vehicle at competitive cost. But you have also the cities, because we can operate many urban infrastructures and to provide energy in the cities. So there are clearly partners on EV mobility. Of course, we need to have a common interest between parties, and it's a winning combination in the joint leadership of public authorities with rules and with regulations. Of course, the manufacturers and of course the energy utilities, because we can commit on infrastructures, on green supply, and we need to have the same interest and the customer in the center, but it was exactly what Jürgen said.
Thank you. So we have about 20 seconds left. Alain, can you wrap this up in a couple of sentences? What do you want people to remember from this session?
Well, I think, everything has been said. We need to build together bridges between all the stakeholders of this ecosystem. And I would say that we call for action as well on the legislation side, the regulation. We need to be supported in order to facilitate, again, infrastructure development, in addition to all the bridges and cooperation that all the stakeholders of this ecosystem would have to deliver to all the customers that we need to service.
Thank you. Have a great conference, everyone. Thank you.